If you are in your senior year, stop doing these 7 things right now. Let me ask you something deeply uncomfortable, something you may not even say out loud, but you felt it in the quiet of your own mind. When you wake up in the morning, do you ever notice how time feels different now? As if the days are moving faster than they used to, slipping through your fingers like sand you can't hold onto, no matter how tightly you try to close your hand. Maybe it happens when you look at your hands, those same hands that once held your children, carried groceries, signed paychecks, maybe even built a home. Now you notice the lines, the spots, the way the skin doesn't quite look the same. Or maybe it happens when you catch your reflection in the mirror. For just a moment, you pause, you tilt your head, and you almost don't recognize the person looking back at you. It's not just the wrinkles or the gray or the posture that's shifted ever so slightly. It's something deeper, something in the eyes, a kind of quiet ache. And it's not just the ache in your knees or your back. No. This ache lives in your heart, because sometimes, if we're being brutally honest, you wonder, am I really living these years the way I should? Or am I slowly fading? Am I letting myself be carried by routines that feel safe, but also suffocating? Am I disappearing into regrets, or habits, or distractions that keep me small, tired, and invisible? And when that thought crosses your mind, maybe you push it away. Maybe you distract yourself with the news, or chores, or anything that feels familiar. But the question lingers. It doesn't go away, because deep down, you know life isn't done with you yet. There's still breath in your lungs. There's still warmth in your chest. There's still time, precious, fleeting time. But how much of that time are you truly living, and how much are you simply enduring? If any of this feels uncomfortably true, if you find yourself nodding along or feeling a lump in your throat, then this message is for you. Because here's the truth. There are 7 things, 7 subtle but destructive habits that so many people in their senior years fall into without even realizing it. And the cruel thing about these habits is that they don't crash into your life all at once. They creep in quietly like shadows at dusk. At first, they're barely noticeable, but over time they begin to drain you, your joy, your strength, your connection, your sense of meaning. The good news? You are not powerless. These habits can be stopped. They can be undone. And in their place, you can plant something new, something that allows your life, even now, to expand, to surprise you, to move you in ways you didn't expect. So let's be real together. Let's strip away the polite smiles and the "I'm fine" answers. Because you deserve more than just surviving. You deserve more than just getting by. You deserve to feel awake. You deserve to feel connected. You deserve to feel alive. And that begins by facing what's holding you back. Right now, stop shrinking your world. There's a quiet, invisible danger that comes with aging. And it's not your bones becoming weaker, or your energy dipping, or your memory playing tricks on you. It's something far more subtle and far more devastating. Your world begins to shrink. It doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual, so gradual you may not even notice it until one day you look around and realize how small your life has become. At first, it seems reasonable. You stop driving at night because the headlights glare too much. You stop going to certain places because they feel unfamiliar or crowded or maybe even intimidating. You decline invitations, not because you don't care, but because getting dressed up and going out just feels exhausting. And little by little, without ever making a conscious decision, your life collapses inward. What was once a wide, vibrant circle of experiences shrinks down to 4 walls, a TV remote, and maybe the same handful of conversations repeated over and over. The scary part is, you can convince yourself that this is normal, that this is just what aging looks like. But deep inside, you feel it. That tug, that restlessness, that quiet grief for the parts of yourself you've let go of. Because here's the truth. The walls you build for safety can slowly become your prison. Think of a bird in a cage. When it's young and wild, the cage feels like protection. It keeps the storms out. It provides food and water. It feels safe. But over time, the bird forgets what its wings are for. It forgets the feeling of soaring, of wind beneath its feathers, of being more than just alive. It forgets the feeling of freedom. You are not meant to live in a cage, even if it's one you built yourself out of fear or caution or comfort. Maybe once upon a time you traveled. Maybe you threw spontaneous dinner parties or laughed until midnight with friends. Maybe you had stories that stretched across countries and decades, stories that once made you feel larger than life. But slowly, almost without noticing, you've told yourself, "That's behind me now. Those days are gone." No, they are not. Your world doesn't shrink because the opportunities are gone. It shrinks because you've stopped pushing against its edges. And those edges need to be pushed. They need to be tested. I once spoke with a woman in her late 70s named Margaret. She lived alone after her husband passed. And most of her days were spent between her kitchen, her living room, and her bedroom. She used to love going to art museums, but she hadn't stepped into one in nearly 15 years. When I asked her why, she sighed and said, "What would people think? An old woman wandering around by herself? That's for younger folks." But one day, after some coaxing, she agreed to go. She walked slowly, leaning on her cane, through the wide marble halls of the gallery. At first, she looked self-conscious, as if she didn't belong. But then she stopped in front of a painting, an explosion of colors, red and gold and wild strokes of blue. And I watched her eyes light up. She whispered, almost to herself, "I had forgotten what this feels like." Margaret wasn't just looking at a painting. She was reclaiming a part of her soul that she'd stuffed into the back closet of her life. That is what happens when you push against the shrinking of your world. It opens again. Maybe not as wide as it once was, but wide enough for your spirit to breathe. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to do something enormous to expand your world. You don't need to climb mountains or fly across oceans. Sometimes expansion is as simple as walking into a new cafe, trying a new recipe, learning a song on the piano, talking to a stranger in the park, joining a group even if you feel shy. It's not about being fearless. It's about being willing, because life doesn't stop being wide, colorful, and alive just because you've reached your senior years. The sunsets are still beautiful. The laughter of children is still contagious. The smell of fresh bread, the feel of warm sunlight, the joy of connection. They're all still here, waiting for you to notice them. Your world only shrinks if you let it. So don't open the door. Step outside, push against the edges, because you deserve a life that feels bigger than your walls. Stop pretending you don't need help. This one is hard. In fact, for many people, it's the hardest, because deep down, you've probably spent your entire life building an identity around being strong, reliable, independent. You were the one other people leaned on for advice, for support, for comfort. You raised children, kept households together, worked long hours, solved problems. And after decades of being the one who gave, the one who carried, the one who figured it all out, asking for help feels like betrayal, a betrayal of who you believe you are. So, you swallow your struggles. You grit your teeth when your joints ache. You laugh off the fact that stairs leave you breathless. You smile politely when people ask if you need anything, even though deep down you're silently praying someone will notice how heavy the groceries feel, or how lonely the evenings are. And the words slip out of your mouth almost automatically. "No, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I don't want to be a burden." But here's the cruel irony. By refusing help, by insisting on doing it all yourself, you don't actually protect the people you love. You rob them. Let me explain. I once knew a man named Charles. He was in his late 70s, a proud father and grandfather. His children lived close by, but he rarely asked them for anything. He would say things like, "They're busy. They have their own lives. I don't want to bother them." One winter afternoon, Charles slipped on a patch of ice outside his house. He lay there, cold and in pain, for nearly 20 minutes until a neighbor happened to see him and call for help. Later, his daughter, her voice trembling, asked him, "Dad, why didn't you tell us you were struggling with walking on icy days? Why didn't you let us help?" And Charles, with tears welling in his eyes, simply said, "Because I didn't want to be a problem." Do you know what his daughter did? She cried. Not because she had to help him, but because she wasn't allowed to. That's the part so many seniors don't see. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's connection. It's giving others the gift of showing up. It's giving your loved ones the chance to care for you the way you once cared for them. When you shut people out, when you insist on carrying everything alone, you think you're protecting them. But really, you're protecting your pride. And in doing so, you create distance. You build walls. You isolate yourself from the very people who want to walk this journey with you. Think of it this way. When your children were small and they asked for help tying their shoes, did you feel burdened? When your spouse leaned on you during hard times, did you feel annoyed? No, you felt honored, you felt trusted, you felt needed. Why do you believe your loved ones wouldn't feel the same way about helping you now? Needing help doesn't make you less. It makes you human. And sometimes it even makes you more open, more connected, more real. Because here's the truth. The image of strength we cling to, the one where we do it all alone, isn't real strength. Real strength is vulnerability. Real strength is looking your son in the eye and saying, "I could use your hand today." Real strength is telling your friend, "I'm lonely. Would you sit with me for a while?" Real strength is admitting, "I can't do this on my own anymore, and that's okay." Every time you ask for help, you aren't showing weakness, you're showing trust. And trust builds intimacy. Trust deepens relationships. Trust creates love. So stop pretending you don't need help. Stop hiding behind "I'm fine." Stop robbing the people in your life of the chance to love you in tangible, practical, powerful ways, because one day they will wish they had more time to help you, more chances to show up. And the greatest regret, for them and for you, will not be the asking. It will be all the times you didn't. Stop ignoring your body's whispers. When you were younger, your body felt like an unshakable machine. You could run, lift, climb, stay up all night, eat what you wanted, and still bounce back the next day. If something hurt, you pushed through it. If you were tired, you shrugged it off. If you got sick, you expected to recover quickly, because that's what your body always did. It carried you, no questions asked. But here's the truth no one likes to face. As you age, your body speaks a different language. And the tragedy is that too many people stop listening. That twinge in your chest, that dizzy spell when you stand up too fast, that fatigue that lingers longer than it used to, that pain in your hip that keeps coming back. Too often, these signals are brushed aside with 4 dangerous words. "It's just my age." And once you start saying that phrase, you stop paying attention. You stop taking the whispers seriously. You shrug them off as normal, when in reality, they might be your body's way of waving a red flag. Think of your body as an old, beloved car you've driven for decades. In its youth, you could slam the gas, hit potholes, skip oil changes, and it would still carry you forward. But now, you don't treat it the same way. You listen for rattles. You notice if the steering feels loose. You check the tires more carefully. You slow down when the roads are rough. Why? Because you know an older car requires care, attention, and respect. Your body deserves at least that much. I once met a man named Roberto in his early 70s. He was strong, proud, and deeply stubborn. For weeks he felt chest tightness when walking up the stairs, but he brushed it off. "It's just age," he told his wife. "I'm fine, just slowing down." Until one morning he wasn't fine. He collapsed in his kitchen with a heart attack. Thankfully, he survived. But afterward, through tears, his wife asked him, "Why didn't you say something sooner? Why didn't you listen to your body?" His answer was simple. "Because I didn't want to admit I'm getting older." That's the heartbreaking truth for so many people. You ignore the whispers because acknowledging them feels like surrender. But ignoring your body isn't strength, it's denial. And denial doesn't protect you. It costs you. Here's what I want you to hear. Listening to your body is not weakness, it's wisdom. When your body whispers, it's not betraying you. It's guiding you. It's saying, "Pay attention. Care for me. Don't wait until it's too late." Sometimes that whisper means slowing down. Sometimes it means calling the doctor. Sometimes it means changing how you eat, or how you move, or how you rest. And yes, sometimes it means admitting you can't do what you once could. But here's the beauty. You don't have to do what you once could to live fully. You only have to honor the body you have today. Stop treating pain, fatigue, or discomfort as background noise. Stop dismissing your symptoms with a shrug. Stop telling yourself, "This is just how it is now." Because your body is not your enemy. It's your ally. It's been with you through every year, every milestone, every joy and every heartbreak. It has carried you faithfully to this moment, and it deserves your respect. So the next time you feel that whisper, a pull in your chest, a shortness of breath, an ache that lingers, don't ignore it. Pause, listen, act, because if you don't, one day those whispers will turn into screams, and by then, it may be too late. Stop living in yesterday. Nostalgia is a strange thing. It can feel like a warm blanket wrapped around you on a cold night, comforting, familiar, soothing. But if you're not careful, that blanket can become a shroud, covering your eyes and stealing away the beauty of today. As the years pass, it's natural to look back, to remember your first love, the smell of your childhood home, the laughter of your children when they were small, the career you once poured your soul into, the adventures you took when your body was lighter and your spirit seemed endless. These memories are treasures. They are part of who you are. But here's the danger. The more you live in yesterday, the less you truly show up for today. You meet someone new, but instead of seeing who they are, you compare them to old friends who have long since drifted away. You see the world changing, new technology, new ways of living, and you mutter, "It was better back then." You spend more time remembering the life you once had than creating the life that's still possible now. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to convince yourself that your best chapters have already been written, that everything worth telling, worth celebrating, worth living, is behind you. But that belief, it steals something from you. It steals the gift of the present moment. I knew a woman named Evelyn. In her youth, she was a dancer. Her body moved. With grace, her smile lit up rooms, and music was her lifeblood. As she grew older, her joints stiffened, her balance weakened, and she stopped dancing altogether. For years, she refused to attend community events, parties, or dances. When asked why, she would wave her hand and say, "I'm not who I was. Those days are gone. I'd only embarrass myself." But one evening, a persistent friend convinced her to attend a small community dance. Evelyn went reluctantly, her cane in one hand, her self-consciousness in the other. She sat in the corner, at first, quietly watching. Then, almost without realizing it, she began to tap her foot. The music reached into her like an old friend calling her name. A man approached her and asked for a dance. She laughed nervously, shaking her head. But he held out his hand. and something inside her whispered, "Why not?" So she stood. She moved, slowly, cautiously, holding on to him for balance. But within moments, her face changed. She began to smile. Then she began to laugh. And before long, she was moving, not the way she once did, but in a way that was entirely her own. Afterward, with tears in her eyes, Evelyn said something I'll never forget. "I realized I don't have to be who I was. I just have to be who I am now. That is the power of letting go of yesterday. It doesn't mean forgetting the past. It doesn't mean denying the beauty of the life you've already lived. It means refusing to let those memories chain you to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Because the truth is this: yesterday isn't coming back. No matter how much you miss it, no matter how much you cling to it, no matter how vividly you replay it in your mind, yesterday is gone. But today, this moment right now, is alive. If you spend too much time staring at the door behind you, you will miss the one that's opening right in front of you. So stop living in yesterday. Celebrate it, yes. Treasure it, yes. But don't camp there. Don't let it keep you from seeing the possibilities that are still available now, because life isn't finished with you. The sunsets are still breathtaking. Laughter is still contagious. New friendships are still possible. New love is still possible. New joy, new lessons, new beauty. They are all here, waiting, and they will slip past you if you're too busy staring in the rearview mirror. Let yesterday be the foundation you stand on, not the prison that holds you back. Stop hiding your feelings. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to put your emotions in a box. Maybe it was your parents who told you, "Stop crying. Be tough." Maybe it was your culture, where feelings were considered private, not to be shared. Maybe it was life itself. Hard times that forced you to grit your teeth, swallow your pain, and keep moving. And so you learned the art of saying, "I'm fine," even when you weren't. But here's the truth. Emotions don't disappear just because you bury them. They don't vanish into thin air. They sit in the corners of your chest, like heavy stones. They rot and ferment until they leak out in other ways. Irritability, bitterness, loneliness, even physical illness. Loneliness can harden into resentment. Grief can turn into anger. Fear disguises itself as silence. I once spoke with a man named Howard in his 80s. His wife of nearly 60 years had passed away, and yet in every conversation he smiled politely and insisted he was managing just fine. He refused to talk about her, refused to cry, refused to show the depth of his heartbreak. But when he was alone, the cracks showed. His health declined. He withdrew. His daughter once told me, "He thinks hiding his sadness makes him strong, but it's killing him." Howard believed feelings were weakness, but the reality is the opposite. Sharing your feelings is strength. It takes courage to admit you're hurting. It takes courage to say, "I'm lonely." It takes courage to let the tears fall in front of someone else. Think about it. When someone you love opens up to you, do you see them as weak, or do you see them as brave? Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is honesty, and honesty builds connection. And connection, real, deep, soul-level connection, is what every human being longs for, no matter their age. Imagine a glass bottle floating in the ocean. Inside it is a message, sealed tight. That message is your true feelings, the love you still carry, the grief you've never spoken, the fears you keep to yourself. But as long as the bottle is sealed, no one can read it. No one can know you. No one can meet you where you truly are. So many people spend their senior years sealed inside that bottle, presenting a version of themselves that's polished, polite, and acceptable, while hiding the messy, raw, beautiful truth of what they really feel. But here's the tragedy. The more you hide your feelings, the more invisible you become. And you, my friend, were not born to be invisible. Stop hiding your tears. Stop hiding your laughter. Stop hiding your fears, your desires, your anger, your hopes. They are not shameful. They are not too much. They are the very things that make you human. I knew a woman named Ruth. For years, she kept her grief over her husband's passing locked inside. She was the strong one in her family, the dependable mother, the cheerful grandmother, the rock everyone leaned on. But in private, she ached. One day, sitting at her kitchen table with her granddaughter, she finally allowed herself to cry. She told stories of her husband, the way he made her laugh, the way she still reached for his side of the bed. And instead of pushing her away, her granddaughter reached across the table and held her hand. Ruth told me later, "I realized that by hiding my sadness, I was hiding myself. And when I finally let it out, I didn't lose anything. I gained closeness. That's what happens when you stop hiding. The walls between you and others begin to crumble, and in their place, intimacy grows. So let the mask slip. Speak honestly. Cry when you need to cry. Laugh loudly, even if your laugh sounds different than it used to. Admit when you're afraid. Share when you're grateful. Tell people you love them. Tell people you miss them, because life is too short to live behind a curtain. And the people who love you, they don't want your performance. They want you, your real, unfiltered feeling, breathing self. So stop hiding your feelings. Let them breathe. Let them out. Let them connect you to the world again. Because in the end, it's not stoicism that heals us. It's love. And love cannot touch what we refuse to reveal. Stop believing your story is over. Maybe you've felt it. That quiet voice whispering in the back of your mind. The best part of my life has already happened. Everything meaningful is behind me. It's a thought that creeps in subtly, often when you're alone. When you're looking at old photos, or thinking about the people you've lost, or realizing your body doesn't move quite like it used to. The milestones of youth are gone. The first job, the first kiss, the wedding, the children, the promotions, the vacations, the busy decades. And so you tell yourself, now my role is just to endure, to watch life from the sidelines, to fade quietly. But here's what I need you to hear. As long as there is breath in your lungs, your story is not finished. Think of a book. Would you ever stop reading at chapter 20, telling yourself, well, I already know how the rest will go. The ending doesn't matter? Of course not. Because sometimes the final chapters hold the greatest twists, the deepest revelations, the most powerful conclusions. Your life is the same. The last chapters can carry meaning you never expected. I once met a retired teacher named Elena. For 40 years, she dedicated her life to her students. When she retired, she felt empty, convinced that her purpose had ended. She told me, "What's left for me now? I've already done my part." But one day, she stumbled across an art class for seniors. She'd never painted before, never once picked up a brush. At first, she felt foolish, almost embarrassed, like she was trespassing in a space for real artists. But she tried anyway. She dipped the brush into color and let it move across the canvas. Something inside her stirred. Within months, painting became her passion. Within years, she had her own small exhibition at a local gallery. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I thought my story was over. But maybe this is my favorite chapter yet." That's the thing. New beginnings don't care about age. They don't care how many years have passed or how many candles were on your last birthday cake. They only care about your willingness to try to say yes, to open the door. Your story is not a straight line that ended when you retired, or when your children grew up, or when your body began to slow down. It's a living, breathing narrative. And every single day you wake up, You are handed a blank page. You get to decide what goes on it. Maybe it's learning something new, an instrument, a language, a skill you always thought belonged to younger people. Maybe it's building new connections, friendships, communities, even love. Maybe it's deepening your spiritual journey, writing down your memories, mentoring someone who desperately needs your wisdom. Whatever it is, it matters. Because life isn't measured only in the years behind you. It's measured in the life you pour into the years still ahead. I think of trees. Some of the most beautiful trees bloom later in the season. Their flowers come after others have faded. And yet they're no less radiant. Sometimes they're even more breathtaking because of their timing. You are like that tree. Your season of blooming is not over. It may simply be different, slower, gentler, quieter, but no less meaningful, no less beautiful. So please, stop telling yourself your story is over. Stop closing the book before you've read the final chapters. Stop assuming your best moments are behind you. Because your story may still hold scenes that will take your breath away. And wouldn't it be tragic if you missed them, simply because you stopped believing they were possible? 7. Stop underestimating the power of connection. There's a quiet loneliness that creeps in as we age. At first, it's subtle. A missed call from a friend, a canceled dinner, a holiday spent quietly at home. Then it grows, like ivy wrapping, around your heart, until you find yourself speaking less, laughing less, even noticing the world outside your window less. You might tell yourself, I don't want to bother anyone. I've already lived my life. Others have their own problems. But here's the truth. Connection is not a luxury. It is essential. Think about fire. When two sticks are rubbed together, a spark can ignite a flame. Left alone, the spark dies. Left isolated, it cannot grow into the warmth and light it was meant to be. Human connection works the same way. We are meant to spark each other's hearts, to share warmth, to illuminate lives, both our own and others. I remember meeting George, a retired engineer in his late 70s. After his wife passed, he stopped going out. He stopped attending the weekly bridge club, stopped volunteering, stopped calling his friends. He lived quietly in his apartment, keeping to himself. When I asked him how he felt, he admitted something. That surprised him, even as he said it. I feel invisible. Like I don't matter anymore. That's the thing. Without connection, even the brightest lives can dim. And George's story isn't unique. Many seniors underestimate the power of reaching out, of being seen, of being present for someone else. And in doing so, they diminish their own lives. Connection isn't only about the big gestures. It's in the small moments, the shared cup of tea, the gentle laugh across a table, a phone call that lasts longer than a few seconds. It's in the letters, the visits, the questions, the "how are you really?" that breaks past the surface. Think of your life as a garden. People are the water, the sun, the soil that nourishes it. Without them, even the strongest flowers can wilt. With them, even the most fragile blooms can thrive. I met a woman named Lila, in her 80s, who had grown distant from everyone she knew. One day, she decided to call her old neighbor just to say hello. That simple act led to weekly coffee dates. From there, she joined a book club. Soon she was mentoring younger women in her community, sharing stories, wisdom, and laughter. Her life, once quiet and gray, became vibrant again. And the astonishing part? Lila discovered that as she gave connection, she received far more than she could ever have imagined. Joy, energy, purpose. It flowed both ways. Connection is the lifeblood of our later years. It keeps us alive, awake, and seen. It reminds us that our stories matter, that our experiences have value, that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. So reach out. Invite someone for tea, call an old friend, share a memory with a grandchild. Join a group that scares you a little with its newness. Ask questions, listen deeply, offer warmth. Because every time you make a connection, you spark life, not just in others, but in yourself. And in these connections, you find proof that your life still matters, that your presence is meaningful, that love, both giving and receiving, is the most powerful force you have. Don't underestimate it. Don't wait for someone else to start the conversation. Be the spark. Because a life without connection is a life half-lived, and a life with it, even at 80, 90, or beyond, can be fuller, richer, and more vibrant than you ever imagined. Conclusion: take a moment and breathe. Let everything we've talked about today sink in. You've just looked at yourself in the quietest, most honest way possible. You've faced the habits that might be quietly shrinking your world, dulling your light, or convincing you that your story is over. That's not easy. It takes courage, more courage than most people will ever acknowledge. And if you're here, listening, it means you have that courage. Remember this: your life right now still has infinite potential. You are not a shadow of your past. You are a living, breathing story still being written. The chapters ahead can be just as bright, meaningful, and full of surprises as any you've already lived. Stop shrinking your world. Stop letting fear dictate your choices. Stop ignoring your body, your mind, and your heart. Stop believing your story is over. And most importantly, stop underestimating the power of connection, because the truth is simple, yet profound. Life does not stop being beautiful simply because you've reached your senior years. It only stops being beautiful if you stop showing up for it. So show up, laugh a little louder, reach out a little further, paint, write, learn, dance, travel. Whatever it is that makes your soul whisper, "I am alive." Let this be the moment you reclaim your joy, your curiosity, and your sense of wonder. And if you want to continue walking this path, if you want more reminders, more wisdom, and more encouragement for these extraordinary years of your life, then subscribe to Echoes of Elderly Wisdom. Because here we honor every chapter, every story, and every spark of life still waiting